Hi everybody, I'm Jane O'Connor, and like Travis said, I operate out of the Moreland branch. I've officially been running my real estate career for about 6 months now, so when I was asked by my managing broker, Steve Russell, to speak at this event, I felt honored, but honestly I thought I would gain the most as an active listener rather than offering useful information as a participant. But Steve was pretty quick to remind me of something that I strive every day to implement into each aspect of my business, and that's my mindset. We all approach our business in various ways, and hopefully in ways that are working for us. I'm going to tell you a little story about why I value having a positive mindset and why I think it works for me. Do you see the stunning woman standing next to me in this photograph? You're looking at a picture of me standing next to my best friend, my confidant, my older sister, Emily. March 2nd this year will mark the 5th anniversary of the last time we ever spoke. Because early in the morning on March 3rd, 2012, she succumbed to a tough, relentless battle against colon cancer. Her life and her story have helped shape the way I aspire to live mine. And I hope to shed a ray of her sunshine on you all, because in my mind, that's the best ray that I can give. In 2010, I graduated from the University of Portland, and I was overly confident about job prospects. After spending several months on the job hunt, I came to terms with the facts that I needed to move. So my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and I packed up all of our belongings in our cars, and we moved to the only sensible place where recent college grads with no jobs and a mounting student loan debt would move, Las Vegas. At the time, my sister, her fiance, and my brother were all living in Vegas, so the transition was okay. My boyfriend and I both got entry-level, bottom-of-the-totem-pole jobs working in hospitality at hotels on the Strip. I had been living in Vegas for 41 days before I found out my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. She was a healthy 28-year-old woman, so basically she broke the mold for any statistic regarding those affected by this type of cancer. When we all found out, we were stunned speechless. The reality of the situation set in that there was a long road ahead with a grim outlook. But my sister, do you know what she did? She put on her happy face, her happy hat, and her happy pants, and from day one, she declared that she was not going to let cancer stop her. She had a plan to attack it head-on, and she started assembling her A-team, or she called it her E-team, since her name is Emily. Then she created a blog to keep friends and family from near and afar up to date on her progress. My sister's attitude toward her diagnosis and recovery was one in which she was able to uplift other spirits. Throughout the following 14 months, I attended nearly every single chemo and radiation appointment and surgery that Em endured. During all this time that we spent together, my sister learned that I was unhappy with my job and knew that I wanted to move back to Portland. Now, to give you a sense of who she was, I want you to know how Em had such an amazing way with words. She was the type of person who persuaded airlines to let her 2 adult huskies fly in an airplane cabin. Yes, among all the passengers, round trip nonetheless. Throughout her long hospital stays, she even convinced her unit nurses to let her dogs come to visit. She was the businesswoman who coordinated higher education courses at the State Bar of Nevada, and then she was hired as an adjunct professor for the local college to teach a business law class. Her smoothness with words had the dean convinced that she could instruct such a class, even though she had no background in law. She just happened to work full-time at the State Bar. Anne approached life with such confidence that it always seemed as though whatever she said was true. So, when she lent advice to me about my career choices, you can sure as hell bet that I listened. She always made note of the fact that I wanted to be in an industry where I could interact with and serve people. She said that I always had the perfect response to the guests at the hotel, who at 2 o'clock in the morning would come to me irate, holding a shower head in their hands. She often alluded to the fact that I should go into some type of sales-related profession. She expressed that she admired the way I interacted with and communicated to people, and she thought I would be successful. She would throw out suggestions of ways I could do that while maintaining my desire to serve people. So what did I end up doing? I went back to school to become a teacher. And even though that path was different from what she had suggested, she was my biggest ally. So I packed up my car again and moved back to Portland to complete my master's degree. A few months into my program, we silently knew that her progress wasn't going where anyone wanted it to, but that didn't stop us from making our future plans together. We would plan all the races we wanted to run together, all the countries we wanted to visit, and had a plan to visit all 50 states. We already had 11 crossed off the list. but our plans came to a halt on March 3rd, 2012, when she passed away. Since then, she's been a foundation of my mindset through my most challenging endeavors. And her presence was a driving force for me last year when I decided to leave teaching to come to real estate, directly down the path that she had anticipated for me 6 years earlier. When I left teaching, I came to Windermere and didn't consider any other brokerages. I quickly learned about the Ninja program, and I was immediately ready to take it head on. It seemed like the perfect tool with which to align myself and my business. I really stand behind Ninja's philosophy of finding creative ways in which we can serve our clients. I signed up to become a part of a Ninja Mastery group before even ever having taken the installation. I wanted to implement good practices from the get-go, and I was ready to succeed. Let's be honest. We all have our motivations of why we're in this business, and determining that is probably one of the easier things we do. But on the other end of the spectrum comes the complexities of knowing how we're going to achieve our motivations. I'm guessing the majority of the people in this room can relate to the fact that starting in this business is not easy. I'm not to the point in my business where I'm thriving yet. And for those of us who have been in this business for less than 5 years, well, guess what? NAR reports that 87% of us are going to fail. That means only 13% of us are going to continue as successful realtors. I don't want to fail, but I get it. It's not easy to know how to put yourself out there among a sea of big fish, of other agents who seem to be working all the listings, or to know where your next transaction will come from. And in those times, I rely on my mindset. So I continually think of how my sister might approach this challenge, and I force myself out of this imaginary box, and I tell myself, just do something. I'm continually bombarded with calls and emails about investing in a plethora of products that will get me more listings. But I think my biggest investment should be in my mindset. The basis of having a successful, appropriate, and positive mindset is of utmost importance to me, and it reminds me of the way in which my sister would approach it. I think back to how she would be amidst so many doctor's appointments and deliveries of unwelcome news, but she had a buck up, buttercup type of attitude because she needed to put her mind towards her healing and well-being. And she never halted that momentum of that attitude. She would say, I thought I was at mile 25 of the marathon, but it turns out I'm actually at mile 3. But the only way to go is forward. That mentality sticks with me, and it helps me focus on my efforts in my business. I admire the way she approached life with such verve and vigor, and my intention is to do the same. About a month into starting my business, without any real clients, I threw together a party and called it my Friends and Family Appreciation Party. 2 weeks later, 2 of my friends from college informed me that they wanted to buy a house. And theirs was the first transaction I ever closed. It was a steep learning curve, but I put on this facade that I knew exactly what I was doing, and they had no clue that I was they were my first transaction. My mindset of wanting to accomplish so much put me into a position of ways to think I could serve my sphere. And in this instance, it began with pizza and salad and turned into helping friends into their first home. I let my mindset lead me to results-oriented actions. Now, every day when I arrive at the office, I make sure to write down the 25 Ninja prescribed affirmations. Sometimes they're income-oriented, and other times they're goal-oriented. Sure, they can feel redundant, my hand begins to hurt, and sometimes the value doesn't always seem immediately present. But doing it sets the precedent for the rest of my activities, making the calls, meeting with people, writing notes, finding ways to serve my clients, etc. At first, I was apprehensive about putting myself out there, thinking I would be an inconvenience if I made that phone call, or a spammer if I pressed send on that email. But I realized the more that I let that hold me back, the more I made it about me, and the less I made it about the people who know me, like me, and trust me. I cannot serve them if I'm thinking about me. So put your mind in the right place, get yourself excited, and find ways to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Because we get to navigate this beautiful city, serving people during a pivotal time in their lives. Each year, my husband plans a trip for us to honor my sister on the anniversary of her death. I never know where we're going until we're in the car or on the plane, but I know that we're hitting a new state until we've reached all 50. Being able to reach that goal in and of itself is motivation enough to nourish my positive mindset. Thank you.